Hey guys, YouTuber 100 here. Alright, and now here I am continuing with my classic monster movie reviews. As I told you in my last review, now I'm just gonna be talking about a couple of the crossover movies with these monsters. And so now here I am with a review for Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. So, yeah, I thought that I enjoyed this one, definitely more than I did the last two Frankenstein movies I've looked over. So I thought it was like a better Frankenstein movie than those two. But as a follow-up film to The Wolfman, this kind of seemed like a pretty big step down, to be honest. I mean, yeah, I just felt that the storyline that this movie was having, as far as the Wolfman part of this goes, I felt that the storyline really was kind of weak, and really it didn't make a lot of sense. And just I felt that the Wolfman part of this film, the storyline, I think is just kind of really strange, and the storyline really doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And yeah, but yeah, the Frankenstein stuff in this film, I guess the Frankenstein part of this, I think it does, it still does have some the connections with the Ghost of Frankenstein, and yeah, this movie also does have continuation from the Wolfman as well. So I mean, I guess this is does have good continuity with both film series, but I just felt that this movie just the storyline really just didn't make a lot of sense, to be honest. I mean, yeah, this movie is set about 4 years or so after the events of both Wolfman and the Ghost of Frankenstein. And apparently, after what happened at the end of the Wolfman, with Larry's father killing him, apparently, Larry was still alive because of, the wolf, werewolf curse he was under. Under, and apparently, he is, immortal or something with the curse. And also, in this film, you have, the stuff with, since, Larry is still alive, he's, now in another town, and once he, reveals to, doctor and police who he is, but once they find out from, Larry's hometown that he died all those years ago, they think he's, impersonating Larry Talbot, and, and once they go to Larry's town to try to learn the story about him, and once they see a picture of Larry, they think that the man, well, Larry, who they're having at the hospital, they think that they don't think he looks completely like the picture that they have, but then all of a sudden they just stop going through that, and it just all their questions about who this man is that they have in their care, just they don't even bother going back to look into it anymore after that. So yeah, it just some stuff in here is just discontinued after a while, and I really just don't understand it. And yeah, we really don't really get a whole lot of Frankenstein and the Wolfman in this film. And yeah, most of this film, it's really just Larry trying to find a cure for the curse, and how he, because yeah, in this film he wants to die and stuff, and yeah, it's really it, I just really this really doesn't make a lot of sense, really. And yeah, the monster doesn't come in until about the halfway point of this film, and oh man, I'm gonna talk about the monster in a second. I do have some choice words for this, but yeah, I'm gonna get the monster in a second. Yeah, and apparently the doctor that actually did revive Larry and take him in care, well, apparently he is trying to find a way to try to like suck the life out of both Larry and the wolf and the monster. And yeah, just like this movie just like really just ends like really just the ending for this film really is like really like kind of like a cop out really because I mean it just like ends like out of nowhere and like we just like we see like the doctor and Larry's plans and stuff on what they had. It just like ends up like not going down, but it just like really just ends really like sudden and stuff. And yeah, the ending for this film really I think is a real cop out, but yeah. So yeah, this film really does like have like some stuff that really doesn't make a lot of sense to it, and some really weird choices for this. And we really don't see like a whole lot of like anything with Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. I mean, it is like a good thing that we get like at the end of this film where we actually do have a fight between the two of them. I do like that. But yeah, we really don't really get that anywhere else. Like after like most of this film is just like Larry, like he like ends up like recovering the monster after like what happened in the events of the Ghost of Frankenstein. So yeah, Larry like does recover the monster in this film, and yeah, it's just like he's trying to really like be friendly with the monster and stuff, like really try to keep the monster calm. It's like the monster is like under Larry's control in this film. But yeah, once like at the end of this film where Larry transforms into the Wolfman, they have like a fight, and then we do have this sudden ending. But yeah, so I think it is like just a so-so movie. Definitely like an improvement over the last two Frankenstein movies, but a step down for a Wolfman sequel. So yeah, this film is just like right in the middle. Really, I think this is just like a thumbs in the middle movie. I would give this, I don't know, 2.25 stars out of 4. I mean, if the plot for this made more sense and like if some of the choices they made, they would have made some better choices. I, this probably would have actually been a could have been a pretty good film. But yeah, it just really like the choices that they have for this and just the way this plot is written and stuff, it really just like brings it down. But yeah, yeah. In this film, like we have Lon Chaney Jr. reprising his role as Larry Talbot, aka the Wolfman, and I'm glad that he decided to reprise this role instead of the role of the monster. But sadly, oh gosh, the monster in this film, he's played by like Bela Lugosi, as well as like in this film, he's also portrayed by Bela Lugosi's stunt double. Oh boy, I cannot. Oh man, Bela Lugosi just. He was a good Igor in the previous two Frankenstein movies, as well as a great Dracula, but as the monster, he was not good. It's just like Lon Chaney Jr. Like, just seeing these performances, it just really makes me miss Boris Karloff in the role. I mean, I really just wish that Boris Karloff would have reprised his role like for all the Frankenstein films. But yeah, after seeing like how silly like they treated the monster like in these past two movies, I think don't really think it's hard to see why he refused to come back. I mean, because they were just doing like I think I understand why he felt the monster was being turned into a joke because of like these last two movies on how what they really did with him. Yeah, it's just like oh, I just really miss Boris Karloff and yeah, Bela Lugosi and the stunt double. They're worse than Lon Chaney Jr. was in Ghost of Frankenstein. I mean, yeah, Bela Lugosi and the stunt double just really make the monster very comical in this film, especially like at the end when we have the big fight between the monster and the Wolfman. Just, I mean, oh man, the monster was just like really comical during that. I just couldn't stand it. Gosh, I mean, oh, why did they do this? Why? This was such a wrong choice for casting for the monster. I guess this was like to give continuity with Ghost of Frankenstein since Igor's brain was put into the monster's head and Igor was played by Bela Lugosi, so I guess they thought it was a good choice to put Bela Lugosi in the role of the monster, but it just didn't go well at all. Gosh. And yeah, we do have like a few recurring characters back from both like Ghost of Frankenstein and the Wolfman. Like we do have, of course, Maliva the Gypsy Woman back from Wolfman, yeah. And we also do have, like, Elsa Frankenstein back, but she's played by a different actress than she was in Ghost of Frankenstein, but yeah, a recurrent character in this. So, yeah. So if you've like recurring characters along with the monster and Wolfman stuff. So yeah, and also in this film is actually the film that did like show that Larry does transform into a werewolf wolf at in the, whenever there's a full moon. So yeah, this is the film that really does like reveal that he does transform into a wolf when that happens, rather than just in the first Wolfman, where it's just like it seemed like he just like turned into a werewolf at random periods. Yeah, this film actually does like show when he actually does transform into a werewolf. So yeah, I guess that is a positive of this film. But just a weird plot. Really doesn't make a lot of sense, and just some very bizarre choices for this film. So yeah, like I said, 2.25 stars out of 4. All right, so yeah, let me just get right into it. All right, so as the movie opens up, it shows like two guys that are like breaking into the Talbot family crypt, and then they come across Larry's grave, and then they open it up to try to steal some like valuable things that he had buried with him, like a watch and ring and stuff. And then they end up removing the wolfbane that was buried with Larry, and then Larry eventually ended up awakening, and he ended up like grabbing in one of the robber's arms, and the other one just ended up fleeing away, and then it just ended up like cutting to another scene where like Larry ended up being found by the police later that night in Cardiff, and it shown that he had like a wound in his head, and that was of course the effect of what his father did to him at the end of Wolfman. Yeah. And yeah, Larry ended up being taken to the hospital, and he was treated by Dr. Mannering. And eventually, like Larry, like ended up waking up, and then yeah, he just told them like his name and stuff, and he really couldn't remember like what happened to him, why he had the wound on his head and stuff. Yeah, and Larry eventually did discover that, uh, like what his situation really was, and then it showed that when the full moon came out, he then transformed into the Wolfman, and then he ended up like escaping from the hospital, and he ended up like killing a policeman. Yeah, but then like the next morning, and like Larry, after Larry like heard about like a policeman had died, he knew that it was him, and he was telling Dr. Mannering that he was the one that killed the policeman, but they really didn't believe him about it. And he was like trying to tell both Dr. Mannering and like a police inspector about his situation, that he's a werewolf, and he showed them the scar on his chest from when he was bitten by the wolf in the first movie. But yeah, they just felt that they really didn't believe him. Just felt he was kind of just being crazy. Then because yeah, they ended up like hearing they called like Larry's hometown, and they heard that Larry had died, and so they felt that this guy was like an imposter and stuff, and they felt that he was making everything up. And eventually, like Larry just was starting to like kind of go crazy, and then eventually, like the orderlies came and just like overcame over him. Yeah, and then eventually, like the inspector and Dr. Mannering like traveled to Lanwelly, and then yeah, they were just like investigating Larry's story, and then they were shown a picture of Larry, and like I said earlier, they just like didn't think that Larry that they were talking to at the hospital looked exactly like the Larry in the picture. And then yeah, like I said before, after this was really just when they stopped even talking about this at all. Like this was never touched upon again in this movie after this. Yeah. And once then, like Dr. Mannering tried to call back to the hospital to see to check in on Larry, but then like got word that Larry actually had escaped from the hospital by biting out of his restraints, and then he escaped from the hospital. Yeah, and Larry was just out trying to find a cure for his werewolf curse and how he could die. Yeah. Yeah. And then he seeked out Maliva again, And yeah, she was just like saying that she would like watch over Larry and stuff. And then they traveled the to this area, and yeah, Maliva would just felt that Dr. Frankenstein's knowledge may actually be able to help Larry find a cure. But once they arrived at the village, once they were like trying to ask the local villagers about how Dr. Frankenstein, they then showed then his his whole the mansion or whatever ended up they just showed the remains of the explosion at the end of Ghost of Frankenstein. And yeah, the villagers really just want no part of Larry or Oliva, and they basically just threw them out. And eventually Larry ended up transforming into the Wolfman again, and yeah, villagers ended up seeing the Wolfman, and yeah, they were just like mobbing and chasing him down and stuff, yeah. And the Wolfman was like fleeing, but then yeah, he like moved towards the ruins of the Frankenstein mansion, yeah. And then yeah, he ended up like falling through like some of the flooring and fell into the frozen cellars, yeah. And then yeah, later on like believe it was found, and the villagers just ended up like taking her back to the village to get her to talk and stuff, yeah. And later on, Larry ended up like returning to his human form, yeah. And he eventually then discovered or the monster like frozen in ice, and Larry just ended up like thawing him out and recovering him, yeah. And he thought that the monster could help him like find all the notes of Doc Frankenstein, yeah. But yeah, they weren't able to do it, and then eventually then Larry then just was trying to get the help from Elsa, so to try to, if she knew any of her father's knowledge or about the secrets of life and death. But yeah, she like was just telling Larry that she couldn't help him, yeah. And then eventually like Larry and Elsa were both invited to like a festival of new wine, yeah. And yeah, eventually like Dr. Mannering ended up arriving at the festival. Well, and yeah, he revealed that he was like following Larry through Europe, and then yeah, Larry then was like, Dr. Mannering was trying to persuade Larry to come back to Wales before like he transformed into the Wolfman again, but Larry refuses, and yeah, then the monster eventually ended up arriving and crashed the festival, and then yeah, with like the monster now revealed, then like Elsa and Dr. Mannering both like problem told the villagers they'd help get rid of the Frankenstein curse forever, yeah. And then eventually, like with Maleva, so the three of them like ended up meeting with Larry and the monster, and yeah, then they eventually did find some notes from Frankenstein, and then yeah, after like studying the notes, Dr. Herring then discovered like he found out the way to he could like drain the life from both Larry and the monster. Yeah. Yeah. And like as Dr. Herring was setting up the experiment, like he was like really had curiosity to really like see the monster at full strength, and then he decided to like fully revive the monster and stuff, yeah. And also like the villagers really like they eventually end up discovering what Dr. Mannering's intentions were about his experiment. Well, yeah, well, I shouldn't really say that, but yeah, they saw like a bunch of crates arriving for Dr. Mannering for his experiment, but they really didn't know what was actually going on at the ruins. And so then, like, the innkeeper of the village, Vazek, like, came up with a plan to really, like, destroy the dam, oh, that really was overlooking in, like, the Frankenstein mansion. And, yeah, he basically had the intention to blow up the dam and, yeah, just drown everyone in the estate. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And, yeah, eventually, like, as Dr. Mannering was conducting the experiment, like, the monster did end up being fully revived, but at the same time, then, like, the full moon then came out, and then that caused Larry to transform into the Wolfman again. And then, yeah, the monster ended up, like, escaping the restraints, and then, like, he was, like, coming towards Elsa. Dr. Mannering tried to get the monster away, but, yeah, the monster just ended up, like, throwing Dr. Mannering back, and then, yeah, the monster then was, like, starting to carry Elsa away, but then, yeah, the Wolfman then, like, escaped from the restraints, and then he went after the monster, and, yeah, the monster and the Wolfman had a fight together, and, yeah, this was probably, like, the highlight of the film. Yeah, this was what everybody was waiting to see. I mean, it's in the title. Yeah, yeah. And in the meantime, then, like, Vastek then, like, lit the second the dynamite fuse, and then eventually, like, it exploded, and, yeah, the dam then, and, like, was destroyed, and then, yeah, water started to flood the area, and then eventually, then, both the monster and the Wolfman ended up being swept away by the flood. And, but, yeah, it also showed then, like Dr. Mannering and Elsa were able to escape before the flood. And then, yeah, that's really just how it ended. Just really like the villagers watching the flood, and the monster and the wolfman ended up being swept away. And it just then showed like Dr. Mannering and Elsa watching over it too. And yeah, it just ended like that. So a real sudden ending, like just it's like the villagers were triumphant, and just like we had all this stuff with Larry looking to find a way for him to die and break the curse and everything. And then we just get this. Like, really kind of a cop out ending and just really sudden. Like, we went through all of the stuff in this movie really for nothing. So, yeah, that's really kind of a cop out on here, but yeah, whatever. So, yeah, like I said, 2.25 stars out of 4. I mean, oh, yeah, like I said, the plot really does not make a lot of sense, and it's really weird and stuff, and yeah, just some choices they make and stuff just really are just weird, and plus this ending just like really makes this whole movie to be turn out to really look like a real waste of time, really. But yeah, I guess it is still like a so-so film. I mean, yeah, like I said, I enjoyed this more than the previous two Frankenstein movies, but yeah, felt like a big step down from the Wolfman. So I really don't know whether or not to recommend this. I guess just you be the judge if you haven't seen this before. I mean, you want to see it, go ahead, but if you don't, yeah, you're not really missing out on anything. Like this really is not any must-see film. I mean, if you like crossovers, I guess you can watch this, but yeah, it's really not like a must-see crossover. So yeah, that's really the best way I can put it. Alright, so yeah, this is from my review of Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. So yeah, and then yeah, I'm gonna go over another one of these crossover films in my next review. Alright, but anyway, so yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.